I lived on a U-shaped street growing up. On my side there were 6 houses, 3 of them had boys, my family had the only girls. We were all friends and had neighborhood block parties, flag football, everyone got along and played well together. We had that one friend whose parents never let you come into their house, and if you did, you were usually with your parent. It was the summer of 5th grade, and on a whim a few of us decided to skateboard, which led into tag around the house next to the house we could never go in. It was a little before noon and I rounded the corner running when Mr. B stuck his head out from the carport door and asked me to come over. I obliged. He had asked me to take a look at some photos for a surprise for his wife's birthday and wanted my opinion on them. I felt really grown up with such a task and was somewhat excited about it. When I entered, all seemed normal, no big deal. He had gone into his bedroom, which was just off the kitchen, to retrieve the photos when I heard him call my name. I peeped through the door just a little, unsure of going in. I wasn't allowed in my parents' room, so I was a little taken aback. Anyways, I do what I'm told and follow him over to the dresser where he opens a drawer and pulls out pictures, which back then were Polaroids. I'm in total disbelief. It feels like a dream as he's showing me these photos of him naked, spread eagle on his sofa. My fight or flight kicks in as he's asking me if I'd like to take a few of him with his camera, and he could take a few of me if I wanted. I run quickly out the door, through the kitchen, outside where I run to my house and lock the door. I did inform my folks, but they just said not to go back to that end of the street and that's it. My neighborhood didn't look quite the same after, and as soon as I was old enough I left and never came back. Mr. B was a total creep. I'm thankful I've not run into him since in this town. It changed my perspective of life in general. I'm a mom of 3 girls now and I absolutely do not sugarcoat things. They are well informed on the things that could happen and hopefully they will always be smarter than me and never have to encounter such things. My parents, bless them, had nothing but the best of intentions when they tried to shelter my sister and I as much as they could. They educated us to the point where we knew what the world was like when they thought it was appropriate, but I had to acquire street information for myself. This made itself apparent when I went on an overnight to the university I would eventually attend. Sitting in my host's dorm room, one of her hallmates passed by and mentioned he had special cookies. They were excited, so it threw them off when I legitimately asked if his mom made him cookies or something. Flash forward to last year, the first semester of junior year is spent abroad at my university's London site. My drug knowledge has gone up a bit, but as the one vice I have is Jack Daniels, I still don't know much. My best friend Sammy was among the students who went, so many of our 3-day weekends were devoted to travel. Airfare was cheap, so why not? This particular weekend brought us to Kiev. We arrived and promptly made friends with a group of girls at our hostel from Mariupol who thankfully spoke English. They invited us to a nightclub and we accepted. I was in a particularly good mood for whatever reason and found myself quickly inebriated. Dancing with some of my new friends and Sammy, I excused myself to go to the bathroom. Little blonde girl. Even over the music I heard it, and knew it was directed at me. That's a pretty accurate description of my person. It was a man who looked like a bear. Huge, dark features, leer in his eye. I, of course, in my drunk state, was thrilled to make a new friend. He asked if I wanted to have a good time, and if I liked what he offered me, I could have an even better time with him and his friends. He produced what looked like a vial of murky red liquid. I took it, and then he pulled a needle out. That spooked me, but I was also intrigued. I watched him fill it up, tap it, and felt a little splatter go on my arm. A faint scent of iodine filled the air, and suddenly my brain snapped back to reality. "I need to go," I mumbled. He didn't like this and grabbed my wrist, turning it so my inner arm was facing outward. "My friends want to meet you," he said, posing the needle. I stepped on his foot hard. He lost his grip and I ran back to my friends. I asked them to leave, too shaken up to tell what happened and not wanting to spoil the evening. The next morning we all met for breakfast and I told them my experience. The girls from Mariupol grew somber. "Red liquid?" I nodded. "It smelled like the doctor's." A horrified look. "That's crocodile, okay? Don't touch that stuff, it really messes you up. A girl like you who's never taken drugs? Yeah, it's not like ketamine, but he was going to hurt you. You said you washed your hands? It rots flesh. I don't plan on going back to Kiev." I've always lurked on Let's Not Meet, but decided today to post this. It's always been at the back of my mind. I'm 23 now. Let me explain this house we lived in. It was an upstairs downstairs, and up the stairs there was one bedroom, a long hallway to the bathroom, where I was. So I started a new job. I was 20 at the time. I was a trainee at a hairdresser's. I spent the whole day on my feet, making coffees, tea, and brushing up the hair on the floor. Doesn't seem like hard work, but the hairdresser was very busy because a bride was in with her bridesmaids trying out different hairstyles, so I had to stay a bit longer. I started at 9 and finished at 5, so after my shift all I could think about was a nice warm bath. My legs were killing me. I lived with my boyfriend who was out of town doing some jobs for his dad to help pay the rent. It was a fairly nice house. It belonged to his brother who allowed us to move in. As soon as I got home, I relaxed for a bit and then went up the stairs. I ran my bath, locked the door, and got in it. So at this point I was drifting away in a very relaxing hot bath, but then I heard a noise on the stairs and it startled me. I convinced myself I was being paranoid because I don't like being home alone, but then I heard it again. It was like someone was slowly sneaking up the stairs. I lay still in the bath, making sure the water didn't splash. While I was doing this I listened and I wasn't being paranoid. Someone was sneaking up the stairs very slowly, step by step. I'm lying in the bath, terrified with tears running down my face. The noise had moved from the stairs to the hallway and it was getting closer. Closer until it stopped outside my bathroom door. I froze. No movement, and I even held my breath. I don't know how long this happened for, but it felt like for hours. I could hear breathing against the door, a light faint tap on the door. I stayed quiet and prayed they didn't bust the door down. This must have lasted a few minutes, but it felt like hours. My fear was confirmed. Very loud feet were making their way back down the stairs and my back door slammed open. I jumped out the bath, ran down the hall and grabbed the phone which we had in our bedroom, straight back to the bathroom and locked the door. So I called the police. My skin was wrinkled from the water. I was shaking, crying on the phone to the operator. She told me to stay in the bathroom with the door locked until 2 police officers would come and she would tell me when they were there. Dripping wet, with my back pressed against the bathroom door, shivering, I waited. We stayed on the phone until the police came and they checked the back and front door. The back door was open. I stayed in the bathroom until a police officer shouted that it was safe to come out. And he did. He shouted up and I ran down the stairs like my life depended on it. The woman officer calmed me down while I told her what had happened. She asked me if it could have been my boyfriend or anyone I knew. The answer was no. His brother moved away, my family don't live near me anymore, and my boyfriend was out of town. He was at his dad's helping with the job. Nothing was took. Everything was in place except the back door was open. They took my statement and asked me if there was anywhere I could go, and honestly the answer was no. I was told to get a security system like an alarm. The police did a great job. I felt so much better. They checked the house, around the neighbors, and even warned the neighbors. I couldn't get a hold of my boyfriend until he came home. I told him what happened and he was shocked. And then the neighbor had someone try to break in her house later during the night. Now I'm 23, and I no longer live in that house. I'm still with my boyfriend. I have a huge dog, a German Shepherd who is a guard dog, but I still fear taking baths. I have a nightlight which goes off when someone enters our garden and a security system. As for the person who did it, they never caught him. What's up guys, this is Dylan from Dylan's Fear Files here, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd like to thank these Reddit users for letting me use their stories. The first one was by IckyPSCS, the second was by Nanny Nighttime, and the third was by AudreyXXX. And for the first story, I'm thankful I never had any creepy neighbors of that nature as a kid, and I'm glad you got it okay because that could have been a very, very, very bad situation. It's really good you got out of there. I'm sorry you had to go through that. And this is for Nanny Nighttime. The crocodile, on my personal opinion, just what I've heard about it sounds like it's worse than meth. I mean, you know, it mystifies me that people do drugs and how they, especially what they do to your bodies and how they change your physical appearance, especially crocodile and meth. I have cousins and other relatives that have does struggle with drug addiction, and especially methamphetamine, which is very big around the area I live in. Um, and this is the last. This is the last one for Audrey. Audrey, thank you for sharing your story. The it's I've actually had an incident like that before, but thankfully it turned out not to be a home invader and turned out to be my cousin instead. I was going through a time where I was very paranoid and jumpy and scared, and it was very scary because I was alone in the house and I was showering, and then I heard somebody just open the door. But not the same situation, but it scared me, and thankfully it turned out all right for me. I'm glad it turned out all right for you too, but in a different way. And I'm glad you got out of that area, and which I'm not sure if it's a bad area or not. You said it's a nice house, and you got some security, so hopefully things will go well, and you won't have anything like this happen to you in the future. Again, thank you all for your stories, and anyone who's watched the video, I thank you for watching, and thank you for your support, subscribers and viewers. I hope you all have a nice day. Stay spooky, my friends.